Well, g'day, and welcome to another daily live broadcast brought to you by Future of Hospitality, or brought to you by me actually. Um, and my name's David Carruthers, and I just want to welcome you to this live broadcast. So, whether you're in Australia or the UK, and there are viewers who come in from other countries as well that we serve, but most of you are from Australia and the UK. So it's late afternoon as we do this live broadcast there, and it's early morning. I can tell you because I'm actually in the UK at the moment, and it's early morning here. If you're watching live, please comment and let's engage in a conversation. And if you're watching the recorded version, the replay at some other point in time, other than when I'm actually speaking real time, then please comment and let me know where you're from, and add any comments you like. This is a work in progress, and it stems out of the Future of Hospitality initiative that I started back in April. And we do a monthly, what I've called an industry insights and key challenges briefing, where we raise some of the issues going on in the external world. And my aim is to help busy and often hospitality business leaders who are often focused on what's going on at the moment. It's what I'm doing is trying to help people see what's coming towards us. And when I started this in April, it was following a pilot series of lives that I did called Hospitality Conversations. And it became clear to me that there were things going on in the external environment that were potentially bigger than what people thought. And that's proved to be quite right, in the sense that inflation and recession certainly back in March and April weren't really being talked about at all. And in fact, back then, nobody was forecasting the level of inflation, particularly that we're now suffering. And what we're now suffering is only a fraction of where it's going. So anyway, we have a monthly briefing that raises a number of subjects. And then what I'm doing is writing articles as part of a weekly newsletter. And each article is one subject from the briefing. And then each week's newsletter theme, and this week is price as a strategic weapon. The daily lives are sort of going to fall into that subject area. So what I'm hoping is, as I smooth out this process, or eventually it's my aim that it will be a smoothed out process. I want to make it easy for you as hospitality business leaders to be able to pick up information, pick up insights, take conversations back into your businesses to discuss with your leadership team strategic issues, and particularly questions. We're in unprecedented times, right? We really are. Everybody who's got any credentials around economics, around the external environments, around markets, around industries, has not been through what we're going through and what we will go through before. I'm old enough to have gone through a couple of recessions, and they're tough. They're really tough. And what I want to do with Future of Hospitality is two things. Firstly, I want to deal with the immediate future, the next 3 to 12 months, what's coming towards us, and how we get as many businesses through that period so they survive that period as possible. But what I also want to do is help as many switched on operators, as many switched on hospitality business leaders as possible, turn the challenges into opportunities so that they can thrive. Now, some of the greatest successes will come out of the chaos that we're about to go through, the tsunami that's going to hit us. Now, if you're prepared and you're constantly understanding what's going on in your external environment that's changing rapidly, but you're actually navigating those rapids and you're working out how to keep your business alive, how to serve your customers when prices are going through the roof, how to serve your customers when they've got less money in their pockets, how to attract new customers in to replace the revenue from the existing customers who are spending a bit less, which is going to happen in most cases, not all, but most. Then that's what I'm looking for. I want to help as many people survive as possible, and I want to help those who are really, really able to get engaged into the sort of things I'm talking about in Future of Hospitality briefings and the newsletter and these daily lives to really help you thrive. Excuse me. It's early in the morning and I've not had enough coffee. So the other side of Future of Hospitality is co-creating the industry that we want and having conversations that help us define and decide the things that are important to us about the industry that comes out of this chaos. So we're in paradigm shifting times. The industry is going to change and will be unrecognizable in 2 or 3 years' time. And we can either just allow things to happen to us and react to those changes, and potentially what other people, the financial sector wants from hospitality, which is potentially greater consolidation for bigger players to operate rather than small businesses and medium-sized businesses and smaller groups. Or we can start to have conversations about the industry that we want. And I know which option I prefer, and that's to be guiding the shape and nature of the industry in the future rather than just being told what it's going to be. So anyway, that's the bit of the background, bit of context setting. Let's talk about price. So the reason price is such an important issue at the moment is that we're having to respond to massive inflation. Now, yeah, I just want to show anybody who's been following this, following my series would have seen that over the last couple of weeks, I've used this slide a few times. This is the governor of the Bank of England, or the Bank of England team, but under the guidance and leadership of the governor of the Bank of England, effectively the CEO of the UK central bank. This is the Bank of England's forecasts on inflation. Now, the reason there's so many lines is that every few weeks they've had to revise their forecasts, and they've had to constantly update the forecast. So if you look back, a few months ago, they were forecasting that inflation might get to 4%, but it would come back down very quickly. And then that was the blue line. And then the yellow line, it goes a bit higher, but, it's going to come back to 2 or 3% very quickly. And then a few weeks later, the green line, and it's going to be a bit higher. It's going to be over 6%, maybe 7%. And then it's gone up again with the blue line, and then it's gone up again with the green line. And then yesterday there was talk of inflation in the UK being 18%. This graph shows about 13%. They're talking about it now going to 18%. They've got no idea what they're talking about. The governor of the Bank of England is paid £575,000 a year to get it this wrong. And this is their only job. This is the main job of the central banks. And the RBA in Australia it's the same thing. The central bank, in theory, is helping to control inflation. And strangely enough, neither of them are doing it very well. And the governor of the bank, the Reserve Bank of Australia, just so you know, he gets paid over $1 million Australian dollars a year to get it this wrong as well. So this is what's driving this uncontrollable level of inflation. Now, the message I want to get out to hospitality business leaders is that what we hear on the media from these governors of the central banks is that it's going to go up a bit more, but it'll come back down very quickly. Now, if they've got it so wrong, about it going up, why on earth would we rely on when they say it's going to come back down again? What I'm encouraging, certainly my clients, and I want to encourage the thousands of people that are now part of Future of Hospitality. I want to encourage you to expect it to go on longer than we're being told, to expect it to get worse than we're being told. So expect those things and then plan for those outcomes. And if it doesn't go as high or it gets better sooner, it's a bonus, right? Plan for the worst, hope for the best. But don't plan thinking this is going away anytime soon. We are going to have for some time, and I'm talking of maybe a few years, we're going to have greater volatility than we've ever dealt with. We're going to have greater uncertainty than we've ever dealt with. And with inflation, we just don't know where it's going to go. And this isn't, the news will tell us that this is all down to the Ukraine conflict. Inflation was starting to go up before Ukraine conflict. Supply issues were starting to happen around the world. So the period during the pandemic has created the basis for what's going on. The Ukraine conflict has it's not helped, right? It's made it worse for sure. But it's actually not the foundation of the problem. It's not the causation of inflation. There's other things at play, and a lot of them are around the way governments responded to the pandemic, and we're paying the price of that. So if China takes Taiwan, we've got more problems coming as well. That's something else we'll talk about another time. Now, back to price. So we know that inflation's going crazy. We know that we've got to deal with price somehow. Otherwise, if we don't manage our prices, we end up in a situation where we just lose our margin and we go into negative cash flow. And negative cash flow, whether it's a short period or a long period, depending on how much cushioning you've got in your savings or your ability to borrow more money or get more money from investors or whatever your capital raising is from, then you're going to die, right? Your business is going to die. So let's not make it. Let's not say this as it isn't. Businesses are going to die in this next period of time, and I forecast, sadly, that maybe somewhere between 20 and 40% of hospitality businesses, particularly in Australia, where it's mainly owner-operators, are going to close their doors. We've already got 40% of businesses aren't paying rent at the level that they're meant to do, or not paying rent at all. So we've got major issues going on in the industry. Price is probably the biggest single one at the moment. And what's certainly when I started doing these the briefings, and I was doing Hospitality Conversations live in February, price wasn't something that was being actively managed, and it never has been in our industry. It's never been. So we've never been very sophisticated as an industry. Not every, some of you have, but most of you haven't. Never been very sophisticated at managing price as an element of the strategic mix, as an element of the strategic marketing mix. So, let me show you a slide. This is what's going to drive. Not just like inflation is causing this action. Now, this action is consumers moving from the brands that they're loyal to and moving to discounters. Now, this is in the supermarket sector, and this is Europe. So I've got to grab data from where I can grab it, and then we can make some assumptions about how this might play out in different countries. And sometimes I'll end up with data from the US, sometimes it'll be from Europe, sometimes it'll be UK specific, sometimes it'll be Australia. But because of the population size, we don't tend to get as powerful a data as maybe we get out of Europe and the US. But anyway, this is this is telling us that 25% of people who go to supermarkets in the 3-month period prior to the survey, and the survey I think was done in July, so July 2022. For anybody who might be watching this a lot later, 25% in that 3 months where inflation's just started to go up. So bearing in mind, in that 3-month period, inflation was far lower than it is now. 25% of supermarket consumers and people buying food at supermarkets, hypermarkets, specialty grocery stores, and convenience stores switched to discounters. Now, the reason I want to share that with you is that this is going to happen in the hospitality industry, and it's already happening. Consumers are, anecdotally, I'm hearing from lots of hospitality business leaders that people are coming in, customers are coming in, and they're looking for better deals, right? They're looking for different things on the menu. They're not just spending the way they would have spent before. And we've already got businesses where revenues are dropping considerably, which is sort of suggesting that customers are actually disappearing full stop. And they're looking for value elsewhere. And next week, we're going to talk about value for money. Every day next week, we'll talk about value for money. And that'll be the theme of the newsletter, value for money, as opposed to specifically pricing. And there's a subtle nuance between the two. And we'll go into that next week. But what I want you to understand is that you, like most hospitality business leaders, have in the last few months really got their heads around seeing cost prices going up and adding that back on, just passing it through to customers. Now, initially, a lot of hospitality business leaders were reluctant to pass those costs on because that's traditionally not necessarily passed on every cost increase when it's come through. We might have looked at, historically we've looked at annual customs and excise. So excise duty increases have driven price increase decisions. So we've not been very good at pushing price forward dynamically. But what we've got to do now is understand, and many have started to push their prices up. But that's what I want to encourage you to consider, is that it's actually a short-term strategy. So yes, you've got to do it. And yes, you've got to respond to some of these price increases, but you can't do it forever, right? And the fact that you may think that customers are just accepting it in your business. The reality is we know that from price elasticity of demand theory that people will only pay so much for spaghetti bolognese, right? So if your customers are paying $25 for spaghetti bolognese, they might pay 26 without too much of a question, might pay 27 without too much of a question. 30, they start to think about it. 35, maybe not. 40, maybe they can get spaghetti bolognese somewhere else and it's worth going to find another place where they might get better value for money, or there's a deal on. Now, this behavior of only being prepared to pay so much for something is partly why we're seeing the move out of major supermarket brands and convenience stores over to discounters in the food sector. The other thing that's accelerating the impact of this is the recessionary behavior that we're also suffering. Now, as people have less money in their pockets, it's forcing them to make decisions about how often they go out, where they go out to, how much they're prepared to spend when they go out, and therefore what they can buy. Now, the two together, inflation pushing our prices up, to consumers who've got less money, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out where this is going. Now, what we've got to do in the industry is be really responsive to this. So yes, if you've been pushing your prices up, great. You've covered, you've maintained your margin, but you'll start to see revenues fall. Now, remember, as you've pushed your prices up, that's actually increasing your revenue. So try and get an idea how much you've pushed your own prices up, whether it's 5% or 10% across the board. Because if your revenue hasn't gone up by 5 or 10%, then people are actually spending less. Okay? Does that make sense? If it doesn't, put a comment in and talk to me about it. So what I believe we've got to do, this is just my opinion, and it's not specific advice for your individual business, but it's a strategic conversation that I'm encouraging people to have in their businesses, is to work out maybe stages of a bigger pricing policy process, where initially you might well try and recover some of that lost margin from price increases to you, cost price increases on ingredients, essentially. But then if we continue to see prices going up, maybe it's time to certainly introduce value bundles. It's time to introduce promotional mechanics that bring specific target groups of customers in at specific times of the week to respond to a specific offer. So you don't necessarily if you start to discount everything, or you start to play with price going down because you start to see customers leaving, you're going to be in chaos, because you've just put all your prices up and pushed customers away. And now you're going to use price differently to bring people in. We've got to be very specific and very careful with promotional activity that involves price. But we're going to focus next week on value for money, and that'll come into it. But the initial period is recovering some margin. But then we've got to be smarter about promotional mechanics to encourage frequency of visit to be maintained or enhanced, and then preparing for another stage. And what I'm encouraging people to consider is high level innovation in their menu design, high level innovation in creating a more sophisticated pricing environment, where you may well have different prices at different times of week, vis-a-vis the airline industry using price to fill aircraft, and people understanding that that's the way that industry works. Now, our industry is not used to that, but we're going to have to become more dynamic in some shape or form. It might not be what I've just said, but we're going to have to become more dynamic about the way we look at pricing, because we can't just keep putting prices up in an environment where people have less money in their pocket. Now, some of you are going to get really good at this, and you're going to get you're going to understand and be in tune with your target markets so well that you understand exactly how sensitive they are on price. And you're even going to start looking for less price sensitive segments of the market. And they're going to tend to be people who are earning a bit more money. Certain generations are less prone to recession and inflation. Gen Z, for instance, is less concerned about price increases than Gen X and baby boomers. And we're going to have to get into the nuances of which segments in the marketplace can we actually target more actively to bring into our place, because they're less price sensitive and they're not being hit as hard with disposable income, and they're not feeling like they've got to respond in a brand switching way, leaving you essentially due to price increases. Now, the opportunity for those of you who can get your heads around this is that there are going to be, for the first time in modern history, there are going to be, and I want you to imagine this picture as I describe it, there are going to be customers who've literally walked out of the places that they normally frequent because they're just pissed off basically with the price that they're starting to pay for spaghetti bolognese, as an example. And they're looking for places to go that are going to give them greater value. So focus on your existing customer retention and make sure you're providing them with, as much as you've got prices going up, you're providing them with opportunities to get value in your place. And they feel loved. And when you're really going to have to look at how you retain your customers, because you want to avoid them leaving you to find better value for money elsewhere. But the opportunity is that there are going to be loads of customers out there who are a bit pissed off with their current venue, their current restaurant, their current cafe, their current pub, their current bar, for other places to go, or for the smaller amount of spend they've got. So this is the space I want to play in next week during the lives. And I'll talk about it in the newsletter next week, value for money and how we create it, how we create increased perception of value for money for our customers. So I'm going to talk about that next week, and I'm going to talk over the next couple of days. What are we on, Wednesday? Thursday and Friday this week, the briefings will continue to talk about price. And tomorrow I'm going to talk a little bit more about price. I'm going to talk about segmenting markets and segmenting our customers to communicate specific price activity in. But don't take the way the world is as all negative at the moment. That there will be, I believe, 5 to 10% of operators who respond so smartly and in such a sophisticated and dynamic way to the volatility and uncertainty in the external environment that they thrive. And I want you to be one of those people. I want you to be the manager of a business or the owner of a business in the hospitality industry that actually comes out the other side of this tsunami with a stronger and better business, more profitable, and you're not burnt out. You're actually thriving as a human being and as a business. And that's my little tiny big hairy goal with Future of Hospitality. So we've what's the next event we've got? 29th of August, next Monday. We've got a goal setting and performance transformation masterclass. So I have a 3-step process for goal setting and achievement. Most of us in some aspect of our lives, and some of us in many aspects of our lives, want to go from here to here with a specific issue. Now, whether it could be our business profitability from here to here, or it could be aspects of our personal life, our finances. We might have relationships in our lives with friends, family, or partners where the relationship's here at the moment and we want it to be here. So I cover 12 aspects of life, and business is one of them in this particular workshop setting. And I have a 3-step process, which is clarity, which is about understanding our current situation and setting the goals, prioritized, very clear goals in terms of what we want to set. We have step 2, which is focusing on it, developing strategies that will actually get us to the outcome that we want, through identifying some key stepping stones that we're going to take to get there. And step 3 is traction, which is actually implementing those strategies to achieve the goals that we've set, coming from the position that we've understood we're in. and it's the traction bit is really powerful, because it's all about breaking old habits and creating new habits, and transforming performance. So anyway, that's the 3 steps. The workshop on Monday, it's a masterclass workshop, and we're going to focus on clarity. So you'll walk out, free workshop. You'll walk out of that workshop with clarity around your situation at the moment, where you'd like it to be across 12 aspects of your life and business, and you'll be ready to go and achieve some of those things. So we'll cover step 1. That's it. We're at 7:30. That's my limit. I keep saying 15 to 30 minutes, but they seem to be 29 to 30 minutes at the moment. I will try and get them shorter, for everybody's benefit, including my own. But that's it for today, and I'm going to love you and leave you.